Have you realized it's been 2 years since the 9th generation consoles arrived? I'd wager you haven't, and for good reason. At this point in November 2022, I still haven't even seen a PS5 in person. Have you? Not to mention the fact that new games like God of War Ragnarok are still being released as cross-generation games, and I don't blame devs for doing this. A massive portion of their fanbase is completely unable to buy the next-gen PlayStation and Xbox consoles. When you add in the rising cost of gaming along with the console shortage, this really is starting to feel like the lost generation of gaming. In November 2020, Microsoft and Sony released their brand new generation of consoles into the world. The Xbox Series X and PS5 promised high-fidelity graphics and 4K resolutions at 60 FPS, while the Xbox Series S provided a cheaper alternative to get into next-gen gaming. Those were exciting times for us gamers, because new consoles meant next-gen video games. How wrong we were. While there are a few exclusive next-gen titles that look truly stunning, such as the Demon's Souls remake on PS5, the number of these titles after 2 years is laughably small. The cross-gen period where games are released on both the outgoing and incoming consoles has lasted longer than any other that I can remember. The industry should be charging forward, pushing the boundary of what's possible in games with cool technology like Unreal Engine 5. Yet in this environment, developers are financially obligated to compromise their creative vision in order to produce scaled-down versions of their games that run on decade-old hardware. To be clear here, neither developers nor gamers are at fault for the situation. The circumstances we find ourselves in are to blame. The pandemic messed up just about everything, including the semiconductor production industry. This event is referred to as the global chip shortage, where the demand for semiconductor chips far outstrips supply. These chips power electronics as a whole, from cars to household appliances to, yes, video game consoles. Additionally, during the lockdowns, demand for home entertainment, including video games, skyrocketed. So, we have a shortage of key components for making consoles at a time when there are more gamers than ever in history. Much like peanut butter and horseradish, that is a recipe for disaster. One interesting thing to note is that by June 2022, Sony had already sold 20 million PS5s, a huge amount. That just goes to show how high demand is. You don't need to look very far to find a crowd of people hoping to get their hands on one. According to reports, the PS5 is roughly doubling the Xbox Series consoles and units sold. That would mean that by June 2022, there were around 30 million next-gen consoles out in the wild. While that is quite small compared to the PS4 and Xbox One's combined 168 million units sold, 30 million is nothing to sneeze at. That is a sizable install base for next-gen games, but it doesn't feel like we've left the PS4 Xbox One era yet. Not many games stand out as being worthy of the next-gen tag. Why don't we look at some that have already come out and some that are arriving soon? On PlayStation side, we have Demon's Souls, which definitely looks and feels next-gen, despite being a remake of the PS3 game. Then there's Horizon Forbidden West, which pushes the scale up significantly from Zero Dawn. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is a standout here for next gen. It really feels like it's taking advantage of the new hardware. Spider-Man is a different story though. It was designed for the PS4 and given some new visuals for the PS5, but in my opinion, it isn't what I think of when I think next gen. That's about all I have for PlayStation at the moment, since it's still too early for me to count God of War Ragnarok, though I'm sure it can make this list in time. Feel free to flame me in the comments for leaving out your favorite game. On Xbox's side, there isn't much. I'll count Plague Tale Requiem since they own the studio, but it is on all platforms including the Switch. Admittedly, this game has phenomenal visuals, and the gameplay seems to be a big step up from the first game as well. The other main title I think of is Microsoft Flight Simulator. That piece of software shouldn't even exist, let alone run on modern consoles and PCs. I would definitely consider it next gen. Other games like Forza Horizon 5, while great, don't present a big improvement from their predecessors and can easily be played on 8th gen consoles. And lastly, I don't really know where to put this one because it isn't exclusive to any platform, but Cyberpunk 2077 is undoubtedly a next-gen game. We are still having trouble running it on PCs, and it definitely can't run on last-gen consoles. We know that. That roundup didn't take very long. 2 years into the console generation, which will last an average of 7 years, and this is where we're at. A small handful of games that actually merit the existence of the new consoles. It's not great. I was hoping that we would see tons of crazy new games pouring out once the PS5 and Xbox Series X arrived, but that has yet to happen even now. Fortunately, the future looks good, with titles like Hogwarts Legacy, Forspoken, Final Fantasy XVI, Starfield, and not Gotham Knights. It seems that the wave of next-gen games is finally arriving. I look forward to seeing what developers can do with these shiny new consoles in the future, and man, I hope everyone is actually able to get one.